No, you are not crazy. Donald Trump is terrible. His agenda is awful, and you are not the only one who sees it. Lots of people do. It is already wildly unpopular, and we're just getting started. So we're gonna run through a little bit of the evidence that people are not buying what Donald Trump is selling or stealing, depending on how you look at it. And so according to Gallup, this is just like top line news, he has the lowest February approval ratings of any president since 1953. He is getting off to a terrible start. 1953, I mean, Mitch McConnell was in his 20s, It was a different time for America, but no, not since then has someone started off as bad in general. But let's forget the general. Okay, let's dive in. What about the economy? Well, according to Gallup, his approval rating in the economy stands at 42%. This is lower than any president's first-time February reading in recent history. Lower than Joe Biden by 12 points, by Barack Obama by 17 points. George W. Bush, hell, another conservative, and Bill Clinton even started worse. And remember, there was obviously economic stress to start off the 90s and all that. And so a little bit of context for that. So in general, people are not buying it. On the economy, they're already not buying it. And that's before he's even done his tax cuts. That's before the tariffs have wrecked America, but that is the thing that people are worried about. So on specifics, 58% of those polled said that inflation would be a major factor in deciding their vote in future elections. Okay, so this is one of the biggest things looking forward, what's gonna affect your vote. Less than 1 in 3 approve of the job that he's doing on inflation. Already, this is before the inflation that he's gonna generate with the tariffs and with all of that. And so they already hate it, and they're already looking to the midterms. And so I'm definitely looking forward to that as well. But that's obviously not what he'd want you to focus on. Remember, he was talking about inflation when he was running for president. Now that he's president, he doesn't want to talk about inflation at all. What does he want to talk about? What are the distractions, the squirrels that he's gonna use to take people's attention away? Well, there's stuff like renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. That sort of like core, stupid propaganda, patriotism stuff. No, they're not buying that either. Only 1 in 3, less than 1 in 3 Americans actually approve of that. Hell, more than 1 in 3 Republicans don't even like that. And that was that was a gimme. That doesn't even hurt your pocketbook or whatever, but people don't like it. And okay, what about Gaza? Most people probably aren't even really paying attention to that. They're probably just happy to see it done. So the plan to deport, to banish every Palestinian civilian and take it over, only 1 in 4 Americans support that. Only 1 in 2 Republicans even, they don't even like it. 46% are like, no, that seems kind of crazy to me actually. And only 19% of independents like that. And so on core domestic economic policy, they're not buying it. On foreign policy, they're not buying it. On the stupid culture war, patriotism, propaganda stuff, they're not buying it. They don't even like a lot of the other stuff. So ending birthright citizenship, about 1/3 of Trump voters don't like that. So obviously way more voters in general don't like it, but even 1 in 3 Trump voters don't like it. 1 in 5 of his voters don't like his focus on DEI. And I only mention that because I know for a lot of you, you're probably thinking, why am I even trying to get through to these people? They can't be reached. They've totally bought in. They've drunk the Kool-Aid. Well, yeah, maybe most have. Maybe 2 and 3, maybe 4 and 5 have. But even there, people who voted for Donald Trump, knowing all that they know about him, they're not buying all of this stuff. And on the biggest priority, that would be obviously Doge and all the cutting and everything. 60% say that what he's doing in cutting federal spending would influence their vote in the next federal election. So you're probably thinking, well, if this is a big focus and the majority of voters are gonna influence their voting on this, then that's obviously bad news for us. No, only 42% of adults so far support what they're seeing from Elon Musk. Obviously, Republicans love it. They despise the government. They've been propagandized too. But the majority of Americans do not like what they're seeing out of Elon Musk and out of Doggy. And so that's a lot of different polls. We're gonna get to non-poll stuff in a little bit, but JR, what do you make of people's initial evaluation of Donald Trump's administration?
Well, it kind of looks like it's what maybe we expected. At least the folks that saw what he was saying during the campaign, what would come of those things, and they said, how can you tell the truth? I mean, how can you tell the future? How are you gonna tell me what we're gonna experience? Did you know what happened in his first administration? And we can refer to that too, and that was also disastrous in many of these same areas. But still, if people wanna have a short-term memory on that, that's cool. But what stuck out to me was when they were talking about these distractions like Gulf of America and we're patriots and all this other stuff to try and send people's brains away from exactly what it is that we're seeing in front of us. That works during campaign season because the point is to distract from the campaign blunders, the campaign issues where you say something crazy and people go, wait a second, that sounds like you're a fascist. And then you have to scramble and say something patriotic and then they move on. But they go back to focusing on who is actually in the White House, which at the time, of course, is Biden. So you go back to talking about Sleepy Joe and all that, and you forget about those campaign blunders. Well, now you got this guy in the White House, you got the Senate, and you got the House. And apparently you got the Supreme Court too. But you have all this in your control and your distractions only take away from it temporarily like usual. And people have to go back to focusing on what they're seeing and experiencing, which is everyone getting fired, many Republicans and MAGA voters as well. Many of these folks who voted for deportations didn't realize that it was their father that's gonna get deported. And these other folks that were talking about we're waiting for the prices of everything to go down. Fine, distract us by calling it the Gulf of America. But wait a second, I'm still paying too much everywhere that I go. This is wild. I don't know how this is gonna work. It's gonna keep coming back to that one guy in office. We've said it many times. They're not good at governing. They're not good at actually coming up with results. They're good at campaigning. And honestly, for people who pay attention, they're not even that good at that because they're just lying consistently. All you have to do is ask 3 questions and all of those campaign promises are dismantled anyway. But this is where the problem may come and maybe this is why those numbers continue to drop for them. But I don't know to what degree we're gonna see this lack of reality. That's their last couple stages of distraction is we're gonna keep telling you what you see is not what you see, and there's enough gullible people to keep buying it. And number 2, I'm not sure if you're getting to this, John, which probably not in this particular story. They're floating this whole idea to give people, a couple $1,000s so that they can think, oh, long term, all of our lives and every other aspects are destroyed, but he gave me $2,500. Maybe that's being floated next as the biggest distraction to keep you to not think about anything else that's happened to your life.
Yeah, look, I personally doubt that they're going to do that. I know that whatever amount, even if they do it, and I doubt that they will, I like it better because it actually benefits people than the Gulf of America or whatever. But it's gonna be an absolutely minuscule amount of money compared to what they are pulling in. Like Elon Musk, you think he cares about handing out $2,000? I mean that in both sense of the word. I don't think it really bothers him. And I also don't think he cares about the good that it would do theoretically because he knows he's gonna make tens of billions of dollars. But we'll see, they're gonna, look, here's what's not gonna happen. That they're just going to plummet in the polls over the next month or 2, and then they don't do anything. Okay, they're not gonna do that. They have way too many people thinking about this and they will be worried sooner or later about the midterms. So they're gonna come up with something. Maybe it's the payments, maybe it's an invasion of Canada. God only knows, maybe it's show trials against the Biden administration. I don't know, but they're gonna come up with something. And you can rest assured it's gonna be terrible. Before we move on to the non-poll stuff, I do want to just mention, so I'm covering these polls so that our viewers see them. But you know who I don't have to worry about whether they've seen them is Donald Trump, because he went on True Social recently, and he's talking about polls, he's talking about his support. He said, "I won the presidential election in a landslide." Dude, you got 49.8% of the popular vote. That's not even half. You didn't even get half. You beat Harris by 1.5%. That's a rounding error. 250,000 votes in 3 swing states, and you wouldn't have won this thing at all. And then I know what they would say if they, actually answer this. Well, no, he means the Electoral College. That's where he won a landslide. He got 6 more votes in the Electoral College than Joe Biden did. Did Joe Biden win by a landslide, or is 6 the dividing line between landslide and lame-o? Come on, you didn't win nothing by a landslide. You know how weak your position was coming in, and you see how much weaker it's getting every single day. And I don't have much to draw pleasure and enjoyment in life from politically these days, but I'm damn sure gonna draw some from this. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.